The last video he ever posted showed him smiling, cabin lights glowing behind him, her laugh on the audio, Christmas energy, two people in love, or at least that's what the world was supposed to believe. 4 days later, Tyrone Davis Jr. was found dying on the side of a road in Gainesville, Florida. And the woman in that video? She showed up at the scene 2 minutes after the paramedics. Not before them, not with him, after them. If that detail doesn't make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, give it 30 minutes. Because what this case reveals goes so much deeper than a tragic accident. We're talking about a calculated web of betrayal, $250,000 that disappeared while a man lay brain dead in a hospital bed, a mother who allegedly tried to block her own son's autopsy, and a best friend who was somehow always just there. Before we go further, if you're new here, this channel covers real stories, real people, real consequences. Hit subscribe right now because we don't cover these cases once. We follow them until there are answers. And for Tyrone Davis Jr., we are nowhere near done. Now let's go back to the beginning, not the part you've heard. The part that actually explains everything. Tyrone Davis Jr., known online simply as Drew, was by every account a man who loved too openly in a world that punishes that. He was a content creator, a father, someone his community described as the type of man women dream about marrying, generous, present, the kind of person who made everyone around him feel like the most important person in the room. And that quality, that openness, that trust may have been exactly what someone used against him. In late December 2025, Drew planned a romantic getaway for the Christmas weekend, a cabin in Gilchrist County, Florida, about 30 minutes outside of Gainesville. Remote, wooded, the kind of place that barely shows up on maps. The kind of place that, when you think about it later, you start to ask, who suggested this location? Who had been here before? He brought his girlfriend, a woman we'll refer to throughout this video as Lulu. He cooked for her. He filmed. He posted. The content looked like every couple's holiday dream. Matching energy. A man pouring himself into making someone else feel loved. But watch Lulu's face in those videos carefully. The laughs are timed, not genuine. They arrive slightly after the moment, like someone hitting a cue. That the smiles don't reach her eyes. In the context of what happened next, those videos stopped being sweet. They started looking like a performance. A final act before a curtain nobody saw coming. Here's where the official story and the family's reality begin to split apart. And they never come back together. On December 27, 2025, Gainesville police responded to a call on Southwest Archer Road near the Interstate 75 overpass. A man had been found gravely injured on the roadside. That man was Tyrone Davis Jr. Police responded. Drew was transported to the hospital, and within hours, law enforcement had already formed a conclusion. Non-suspicious. Accidental. They said he jumped from a moving vehicle. But Drew's family heard a different story from the hospital staff directly. His cousin Natalie Davis spoke publicly about what medical personnel allegedly told the family. That his injuries were more consistent with blunt force trauma than with someone falling from a car. Not a tumble from a moving vehicle. Something harder, something more deliberate. His father, Tyrone Davis Sr., didn't ask for money, didn't ask for fame. He made one request quietly in the middle of his grief. He just wanted answers. He wanted to know what happened to his son. That one sentence has fueled an entire movement. Now pause here for a second, because before we go any further into the allegations, I need you to understand something about how this case exploded. There was no major media outlet covering this. No CNN segment. No national press conference. What there was a man with a phone, a live stream, when access to people who were close to this story, going by the name Polo. Over multiple live streams, Polo began laying out a case piece by piece, allegation by allegation, pattern by pattern. The kind of deep, street-level investigation that formal detectives either couldn't or wouldn't do. Everything you're about to hear is drawn from those public allegations, from family statements, and from publicly available information. We are presenting a picture, not a verdict, but the picture that emerges is one that is very difficult to look away from. Let's talk about the cabin, because this is where Polo and others believe the actual crime took place, not on Archer Road. Archer Road in this theory wasn't the scene, it was the cover. At some point during the stay, a domestic dispute occurred inside that cabin. Police were actually called out to the property for that dispute. But here is the detail that matters, and it matters enormously. The officers never went inside. They responded to the call, they arrived on the property, and they left without entering the cabin or checking on the people inside. That gap, that window of unobserved time inside a remote cabin in the middle of the woods, after police had already been summoned and left, is the space where, according to the theory being investigated, everything changed. A witness, someone connected to the cabin property, reportedly observed Lulu alone, packing items into her car after the dispute. This person reportedly offered to help. The offer was declined, and when this same individual returned a short time later, Lulu was gone. And so was Drew. Yeah, but here's what makes this detail chilling. In every account from that property, no one saw Tyrone Davis Jr. after that dispute. Not walking, not talking, not leaving on his own. No one saw Drew leave that cabin alive and in control of himself. The next time anyone officially sees Drew, he's on the side of Archer Road. And Lulu? She arrived at that scene 2 minutes after the EMTs. Think about that timeline. If the story is that your boyfriend jumped from your car which you were driving, how did you end up arriving after the people who were called to help him? And the story itself kept shifting. First, according to sources tracking these statements, Lulu indicated she hit him with the car. Then the account became that he jumped from the moving vehicle at 25 miles per hour. Here's a detail worth sitting with. Just physically try, to imagine opening a car door and throwing yourself out at 25 miles per hour. The wind resistance alone would make it nearly impossible to push a door fully open. The physics don't cooperate. And then factor in that the injuries described by hospital staff to Drew's family don't align neatly with what a road impact would produce. The story doesn't hold together, and Drew's family knew it from the moment they heard it. Now we have to talk about the money, because if there was any remaining possibility that this was just a chaotic, tragic misunderstanding, the $250,000 erases it. While Tyrone Davis Jr. lay in a hospital bed, brain dead, before he was even officially pronounced deceased, $250,000 was allegedly moved out of his account. $250,000. Gone. And his children, his actual children, later had a GoFundMe opened on their behalf. A man with 6 figures in his account, allegedly cleaned out while he was dying, and his kids needed public donations. Let that settle for a moment, and while it's settling, consider who allegedly had access. Consider who was allegedly at that hospital, and consider this. Lulu, in the 6-page statement she eventually posted to Instagram, mentioned being at the hospital with one of Drew's close friends. She didn't name him. Why not? This is where a name enters the story, and once it enters, it doesn't leave. Jason. By multiple accounts, Jason was Tyrone Davis Jr.'s right-hand man. Someone Drew considered family. Someone Drew had history with, including conflict at one point in the past, but had forgiven, extended trust to, and brought fully into his inner circle. Polo began publicly pointing to Jason after cross-referencing something simple: social media. Lulu followed an account connected to Jason, an Instagram under the handle ChevyBoyJ. More than just following, and she had posted a birthday message to him. A warm one. Personal. When Polo brought this up during a live stream, that message was allegedly deleted in real time, while the live was still broadcasting. People were watching it disappear. That kind of reaction, or scrubbing digital evidence while thousands of people are literally watching, isn't the behavior of someone with nothing to hide. And there's more. Polo's investigation noted that Jason appeared in photos and at events surrounding Drew and Lulu with a frequency that went beyond normal. Trips that Drew took, Jason was there. At times when Drew wasn't present, Jason was near Lulu anyway. In the 6-page letter, Lulu referenced being at the hospital with Drew's close friend. Polo's position is direct. The only person fitting that description, based on documented proximity throughout this period, is Jason. Shortly after Drew's death, Jason allegedly posted about buying his sister a brand new BMW. Where did that money come from? Now I want to address something that gets brought up whenever cases like this go viral online. The question of whether community investigation helps or hurts. And the honest answer is both. When institutions fail, when police close a case too quickly, when an autopsy gets delayed, when a family can't get answers, people fill the vacuum. They investigate with the tools they have: social media, live streams, community knowledge, and the kind of on-the-ground access that no detective from outside the community will ever have. In this case, community pressure is the reason this story is still alive. It is the reason the autopsy has reportedly been escalated. It is the reason people are talking. But with that power comes real risk. Real people are being named, real reputations are being discussed, and real legal processes exist for a reason. Everything presented in this investigation is alleged. Law enforcement has not publicly confirmed the involvement of any specific individual. What we can say with certainty: Drew's family deserves answers. His children deserve to know what happened to their father. And the full truth of what occurred in that cabin in Gilchrist County on that December night has not yet been told publicly. But here's the part of this story that might be the darkest of all. And it doesn't involve Lulu or Jason. It involves Drew's mother. Renee, the woman who, by multiple accounts from the community around Drew, he spent much of his life trying to earn love from. The woman who reportedly wasn't present for large parts of his childhood. The woman who, if you watch his old videos, he showered with gifts and trips and gestures. The way a child who was never chosen keeps trying to be chosen. Drew loved his mother the way people love people who cost them the most. And according to Polo's investigation, when the Davis family, his father's side, the people actively demanding answers, tried to get information about what happened, it was Renee who allegedly told cabin staff not to cooperate, who allegedly instructed investigators to keep information away from Drew's father, who allegedly didn't want an autopsy performed, a mother who had already lost 2 other children, who didn't want an investigation into the death of a third. Polo's allegation goes further, that Renee received a portion of the money that left Drew's account, that she was not a grieving mother desperately seeking truth, but someone operating to protect the people who allegedly took her son's life, because she allegedly benefited from his death financially. And the most gut-wrenching detail in all of this? When Drew's father made one request, that Lulu not be permitted at the funeral, Renee allegedly ignored it. Lulu was reportedly brought into the funeral home anyway, reportedly through arrangements Renee made directly. The prime suspect, according to community investigators and the victim's father, present at his funeral, because his own mother allowed it. There's a pattern that runs through this entire case that I need to name directly. Drew was too trusting. Not in a naive, oblivious way, but in the way that genuinely good people are trusting. He had history with Jason. He knew there had been conflict. He forgave it and moved forward. He had a mother who hadn't always chosen him. He kept choosing her anyway. He was with a woman who, according to those who knew her, was drawn to a very different type of man. But he loved her fully regardless. Every single person who allegedly betrayed him, he had already given grace to. There's something profoundly devastating about that, and it says nothing bad about Drew. It says everything about the people around him. Now, where does this case stand right now? Officially, the Gainesville Police Department's initial determination was accidental. However, community pressure and family advocacy have reportedly resulted in the autopsy being elevated for further review rather than closed. As of the recording of this video, no arrests have been made. No one has been publicly charged. The $250,000 has not been publicly accounted for. Jason has not made a detailed public statement addressing the allegations. Lulu's 6-page Instagram post defended her actions, but, critically, raised as many questions as it answered, particularly regarding the unnamed friend at the hospital. Drew's children are still without their father, and Drew's father is still waiting. Not for money, not for attention. Just for the truth about what happened to his son. Here's what I want to leave you with. We live in a world where the highlight reel is everything. Where what gets posted is the story. Where a couple at a Christmas cabin looks like love, and the algorithm rewards the performance, and nobody sees what's happening behind the camera. Tyrone Davis Jr. was real. His laughter was real. His generosity was real. His children are real. His father's grief is real. The people who allegedly took his life understood that his public image could be weaponized. That the videos of smiles and matching outfits would make people reluctant to believe anything darker was happening. That the narrative of accident would be easier to accept than the truth. But his family didn't accept it, and a community refused to let it be buried. This case is not closed, and we will continue to follow it. Then if you are watching this and you have any information about the death of Tyrone Davis Jr., the Gainesville Police Department is the official point of contact. Real justice happens through official channels. Community investigation opens doors, but the law has to walk through them. Drop a comment below and tell me, what detail in this case stands out most to you? The financial angle? The timeline at the cabin? The presence of Jason? The mother's alleged actions? I read every single comment personally, and your perspective on these cases is what makes this community worth building. Subscribe if you haven't yet, because we don't move on from cases like this until there are answers. For Tyrone Davis Jr., for his kids, for every family that just wants the truth, stay locked in. We're not done.